interview is with Richard Schelp, the president of IASB, the International Association of Speakers Bureaus. Richard is also the president and co-owner of Executive Speakers Bureau. Please enjoy. Richard, thank you so much for joining me. Richard is the current president of the IASB, the International Association of Speakers Bureaus. Richard, thank you so much for being our partner. Right now, we know that speakers bureaus are the front line of communication with so many of our clients during this time. And initially, what I just want to know is, what is it that we can do as speakers to be great partners to you right now? You've got a lot going on in communication and working with all the different events and the stages they're in. What's the best thing right off the top we can do?
Well, it's my pleasure to be a partner with you guys, and certainly what we can do, there's really just a few things that speakers can do in working with us. I think, first of all, to make sure that they understand that they're always on our team, to make sure that what they do is in concert with us, that they don't get panicked in a situation if they don't have the information yet, but they reach out to us first, find out what our approach is going to be with the end clients. I think that's very important. Also, coming up with additional solutions or ideas for some of these situations. Maybe it's a Skype situation, a webinar, whatever, that allows these people to still have their meetings. I think that is a good way for speakers to reach out to us and make sure that we're in lockstep with them. And then I just think it's extremely important for, if the particular location that the event is, if there's no travel bans, to be willing to get on the plane and fly there. I think those things are all very important in making sure that this is all successful.
Excellent. Right now, would you like people to be proactively reaching out to you, or waiting for you to call them and let them know if there is something that the client is considering, whether it's a postponement or a rescheduling? Do you want them to reach out to you, or do you want them to wait for you to reach out?
I think if a speaker is involved in an event with us and the event's coming up in the next couple of months, certainly reach out. I think it's a little premature. I had somebody today in which I sent them a contract for a new event that was going to be in August, and they said, should we be worried about this being canceled? No, don't worry about this being canceled. Our intention is that everything is going to be good way before August. But I think the thing is that certainly if they have events with us in March or April, and you haven't heard anything from us, certainly reach out. I think it's important to open up those, that communication, especially, as important as it is, maybe the speaker has an idea that might help the situation. And we would never know that if the speaker wasn't proactive.
Excellent. What are you thinking as far as time trends that you're seeing? Are you seeing most conversations of reschedule or postpone for the next 1 to 3 weeks, or are you seeing as far out as 2 months or beyond?
I'm seing all of the above. So
okay.
It depends on who I'm dealing with, and honestly, I've got 3 meetings next week that we know are going to happen already. So that's great news. People still putting on their events. I've got 2 on Monday that are still going to happen, and 1 that's later on next week that's still going to happen. So that is a very positive thing. But by the same token, there are people that are focusing just on this month. Some of the big corporations like Siemens, Hitachi, Intel, some of those people are saying, hey, we just look at March and we're canceling those, and those organizations still aren't reaching out to us for April yet, but they have told us that they're going to be making those decisions in the next few weeks. But then there are still some organizations out there that are going even beyond the next couple of months, that are really being risk averse and are talking to us about things that are 4 or 5 months away. Now, I think that that's going way beyond what's reasonable, but there are people that are doing that as well.
Do you see a trend as far as industry that this is showing up in, these different thresholds?
I know. I think it's really cross industry because we, as a bureau, work with every industry that's out there. I do know that people are in healthcare are very sensitive to this because it becomes almost personal to them. When they deal in, if they have hospital cases, et cetera, they have to set an example. And obviously hospitals are most sensitive to it. So certainly I think healthcare probably at the forefront is worried about it. But really we're seeing cancellation across industry. The interesting thing is I'm trying to pinpoint the type of organization that is still having a meeting and the types of organizations that are canceling. And in some cases, it doesn't make sense. But we do know that a lot of people are still having their meetings. It seems that the ones where the audiences are more contained within a smaller geographic area, those seem to have it, as well as more localized events like universities having events, nonprofits where they're in a local, small area. Those people are still having the events. And there are some nationwide people that are still doing it as well. But a lot of the large groups tend to be canceling. The ones where they're having 40,000 attendees or et cetera, we're tending to see those more as cancellation risks.
Okay. So you mentioned that bringing solutions to you as a speaker partner is a good thing, whether it's virtual. In conversations with folks, I've talked about NSA has an enterprise license available to our members for the Zoom platform. That means our members can instantly go live on Zoom in a webinar, in a meeting, or do their keynote as a live stream, or capture it and do their keynote. What other kinds of ways right now have people been offering to you to extend the value and make sure that your partners, your clients are getting value? Is there any other ideas aside from saying, we can do it as a webinar, we can do it as a meeting, we can do it as a live stream? What else have people brought to you?
That's really been the primary ways that we've seen. I've seen an entire meeting put together with every keynote. I mean, a large meeting with every keynote across the board, one that was in Europe, and every one of the speakers did a live stream type situation. We've also seen ones where they have gone ahead and pre-videoed themselves and had their presentation done ahead of time, and all those presenters loaded their presentations up for the host organization. So we've seen a lot of that, but primarily it's been people either talking about live streaming or a webinar type of environment. Those have really been the main areas that we're seeing.
Excellent. What about if speakers have an existing online curriculum that is in the can? It's a micro-learning and e-learning. Have you had anybody offer to give licenses to folks that can extend beyond, that can kind of add bonus value if people are feeling like the difference between a live event and a virtual event is not the same? Have you had other people sharing or offering that as an asset bonus?
I have had somebody mention it. Nobody has done that yet that I know of, but I think that's an excellent idea. Absolutely.
Very good. So one of the challenges that we need to make sure that we are in front of is, what do we do about the money? So what are you hearing from different bureaus on how they'll be handling deposits if an event is postponed? How would you like a speaker to approach the issue about if it's going to be postponed and maybe even the speaker won't be available when it's rescheduled? How do you want them to approach you about the business side of it?
Approach us or approach the end organization? Obviously, you're saying approach us.
Well, approach you because you've got the relationship and the contract with them.
Yeah, assuming that we have the relationship and the contract, they need to understand that I just had a call with a number of leaders from our industry, from a number of the bureaus, and to a person, our push at this point, we don't know how things are going to change in the next month, but our push is that right now, most events that are U.S. based do not have, this is not a force majeure situation. And we've seen a lot of legal people getting involved in it as well, but it is definitely not a force majeure situation because there are no travel bans within the United States. So because that's the case, as long as those contracts are done right, and the bureaus are pretty consistent with this, it's very important to note that they will not have a situation where they're not going to be fully paid. No matter whether they actually do the speech or not, they should get paid. And it should be, we should aim to help these organizations by getting the speakers rescheduled and get that so they can get money for you get the speaker for their money. However, I think it's more important to know that if for some reason it doesn't work out, the speaker should still be able to get paid fully.
Excellent. I think that's probably one of the strengths of having a bureau partner, is that kind of relationship and contract and attention to the details of the contract. Yes?
Oh, absolutely. And I will tell you, that brings up a great example that we heard about yesterday. There is a speaker that most of his business he does direct. He does probably about 20% through bureaus, but most of it he does direct. He does well over 100 engagements a year. He's gotten canceled time after time after time, but his contracts are not giving him anything that is allowing him to get the full payment. The most he's able to hope for is getting 50% of payment. And that's because those are not through the speakers bureaus.
Interesting. Is there anything right now you would suggest or recommend to speakers, knowing that it's wisdom, not legal advice, about how they approach it if they have a mix, some that are with bureau partners and some that are not? Is there anything that you would advise speakers to be thinking about as they're looking at their contracts and looking at this next stage of business relationship with how they approach the event?
Well, I think first of all, if there's already a contract in place, and if the contract does not protect them fully, then there's not a whole lot we can do about that particular issue. So that's important to know that at this juncture, it can't be repaired. There's no doubt. At this point, you can't do anything if the contract says what it says. However, if they, going forward, for any engagement that they're involved in with that particular client or any other clients, what they need to make sure of is that their contracts do contain a very solid and specific force majeure clause, and that they need to understand what that force majeure actually means. So many people think that a force majeure can be anything that just disrupts the possibility of having an event. And that is not the case. It's not the case at all. Because let's take, for example, if there is a major snowstorm in a location that's not used to having snowstorms, let's say Dallas, Texas, major snowstorm. And as a result, the people down there, most of the people are fairly local, but they're having trouble getting them to the event. But the speaker can fly in and get into Dallas without a problem. Well, guess what? That's not force majeure, because the attendees could get to the event, and the speaker certainly can get to the event. And because of that, it's not force majeure. But they need to make sure that they understand that, and they also need to make sure that they have a clause like that in their future contracts.
Excellent. I think all of our speakers are going to be looking at their future contracts a little more closely, that this has raised the awareness for everyone about what this means when you're putting together all the possibilities of what could interrupt the event and the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when in talking within my own organization, as well as the other bureaus that I had discussions with, we have hundreds and hundreds of cancellations at this point. And that's still just a portion of what we all work on. But we've had hundreds of cancellations, and there's only been a couple amongst all the bureaus I talked to in which all the money was given back to the client. Only a couple out of the whole thing. Everything else went to reschedule.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. And that would be the other trend that I would just love to have you kind of tease out a little bit. Most people right now are rescheduling or postponing, and you're saying only a few are canceling.
That's right. Most are postponing or rescheduling, and they're understanding the situation. And when the questions are asked about it, one of the key questions is when they come to me, because what's the first thing that happens with these situations is the client starts to call. They start to say, well, what happens if we do cancel? And one of the things that helps is not only are we doing, telling them, hey, you will help you with a reschedule. But if you cancel all out, you will lose the money that you paid on the speaker, and you don't get the speaker. So you probably don't want to cancel. You probably want to reschedule. What I'm understanding, at least from some of the situations where a client really tried to push it and we told them what the situation was, they said that the hotel's contracts were very consistent with ours in that respect.
Oh, interesting. So if they are rescheduling, the hotel will observe some of
They'll
these.
allow that if their meeting is getting rescheduled under these circumstances, but they're not letting them cancel altogether.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything that as we go forward, you are thinking might be a new normal about this situation, a new normal that meetings will have a blend of both live and virtual? Is there anything that you would say you'd be looking for as an opportunity that might be a positive outcome of this?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I haven't put as much thought to that because we've been kind of in the mode of just trying to scramble around and take care of our clients and do the right things for not only the clients, but the speakers and obviously ourselves. But in answer to your question, I really think that there is a possibility of people really investigating having an entire meeting in which everything is remote, but they still have all the advantage of the top-notch speakers providing content for it. I think that we need to look at, one of the things, and I still believe that in-person contact, not only with the speaker, but with the attendees networking, seems to be something we're never going to get around. Mm-hmm. But I think that once people have seen this and know you have to have some options out there, it may be a great thing for speakers to now offer up, hey, this is my pricing with a new event, and then my full pricing for if I'm live. Here's my pricing if there is, a video component to it. And here's my pricing if it's a webinar, so that people can really look at what their meeting would be involved in. They know those options are out there as solutions. And I think that speakers in general just, oh yeah, we'll think about a webinar. But if you think about true solutions that you have out there within your fees, I think that is very important to what's going forward. I think the other thing that we all need to know is you can feel like you've got your handle on the business, whether you're a speaker, a bureau, an organization that puts on meetings, and feel like there's nothing out there that can disrupt you. Something that is as simple as a virus that really isn't that terribly serious as this is. It's taking lives, but nothing even to the extent that the flu takes lives, but yet it has taken our world by storm. And for us to always know that can happen anytime, so important.
So important. Richard, thank you for taking the time today and for being such a wonderful partner and for your service as the president of IASB this year. It's a wonderful time to be in partnership with great meeting industry professionals. Thank you for everything.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for the partnership. And let's just hope we can all continue to face this as professionally as we've all done, and that things continue to be handled and contained. And hopefully within a couple of months, we'll just be looking back at this as lessons learned.
Exactly. All right. Have a great day.
Thank you, Anna.